Hello everyone, this is Manoj. Welcome to my YouTube channel. In today's video, I'll discuss about React hooks, especially useState and useEffect. What these hooks are, basically before coming hooks into the picture, if we need any state of any component, then the class component is the only option. But now using hooks, we can also maintain state for a particular component and we can also use that particular state for a later use. So far, I have created a new application as you can see. So this is the default behavior of a new React application. So into the VS Code, let's create a new file, call it hooks.js, and inside this, first import React from React, and this would be a functional component because we can only use hooks in the functional component. So React hooks, and inside this we will return a simple div like hooks example, and finally export it, export default hooks. Now jump to app.js and let's remove this header part because we don't need this, also this logo, and let's import hooks from the hooks file. And now let's import it over here inside this div. Save this, go back to browser. So our hooks component is rendering. Perfect. So now go back to hooks, and now we will first have a look on use state because use state is a state of a component. So import use state from React, and now we need to create a variable, let's say user name, and a function which will reset that particular variable username. So username, and initially let's declare a state of this particular variable as blank string. Okay, so initially it will load as a blank string, and inside this hooks example let's create a br, and inside this let's create a button, and on this button click we will call this set username method to reset the value of this username. So this would be a arrow function, and it will call our set username, and let's say it will reset it with Windows. Let's close the button and give it a name Windows. Similarly, let's copy this and paste it, and here let's change it with iOS. Perfect. Save this, and below this button let's create a br, and here let's run or render this username. Save this, go back to browser. Perfect. So if I click on Windows, so Windows is coming. If I click on iOS, then iOS is coming. Perfect. Now let me create another button so that we can see we can use that state or not. So let's say on this on click, curly braces, parentheses, and alert user name, and call it as alert button. Save this. Let's see, load the page. So if I click on alert, so nothing is coming because at the initial level, this variable is coming as blank string. And if I click on Windows, so you can see the state has been changed from blank string to Windows. Now, if I click on alert button, so you can see we are able to access our state. Now, if I click on iOS, then click alert, so it is taking as iOS from the state. So this is how we can use our use state to maintaining a state for a particular component. So this is about use state, and now let's talk about the use effect. For that, we will use this particular API JSON placeholder. This is users API, and it returns some data about users. I think 10 users data. So we will use this particular API so that we can get exactly how we can use useEffect in our real projects or real applications. So for that, let's create useEffect, and this is the syntax of useEffect, and inside this we will create our fetch API, which is a inbuilt API. First it will take a URL, and dot then, because it's a promise based URL, response, then response dot JSON. We'll convert the response into JSON format, and dot then, let's say result, then console dot log result. And in case of any error, let's create a catch block. So console.log error. So we are done with our user effect, and this also need a extra parameter, which is a blank array. This is again a kind of, see, if I talk about this particular use effect, so this use effect works as a component did mount and component did effect, but as of now this is in component did mount mode, which is a lifecycle method of a class component. So based on this particular, we can also call it dependency. So based on dependency, we can get to know whether it will work as a component did mount or component did update. As of now, this dependency is blank. It means whenever we click on a button, so this dependency will never get changed. So it will only fired once when the component is getting loaded. But if I, let's say, if I pass username over here, so on click these buttons, this value is getting resetted like Windows, iOS. So whenever this value will get changed, this useEffect will get fired, and that way it will work as a component did update. So let's check without any dependency. Let's save this. If I go to browser, and if I reload it, and if I open the developer tools and in the console, so you can see we are getting our array of 10 users. As I said, this is working as a component did mount, right? So if I click on a button, you can see nothing is happening, but the value is getting changed, right? And so now let's pass this inside the dependency. Now again, reload the page. So at the initial level, we are getting our 10 users data. If I click on Windows, you can see again we are getting 10 users data. If I click on Windows again, the API is not getting called because Windows, the initial state is now Windows. If I click on iOS, so the state has been resetted with the iOS, then again useEffect called, and we are getting again 10 users data. So this is how it works. Let me again do one thing. Let's create another variable. Let's say data, and set data, and the initial state of this particular data variable would be blank array. And now instead of logging it, just setting it with the result. And below this username, let's render this like JSON dot stringify data. Save this. So if I reload it, you can see at the initial level, we are this useEffect will get fired and it takes the data and we are getting it in the document. So if I click on Windows, nothing is happening. So for that, do one thing. As you can see, for this particular username, the ID is 1. If I pass any ID, so it gives a particular user data. All right. So on let's say part of Windows, let me put any number over here and let's pass this variable username over here. User name. Let's save this. Go back to browser. So at initial level, we are getting the 10 users data. If I click on Windows, so on click on Windows, we are passing 1 in the URL and it is giving us the data with the ID 1. If I click on iOS, so it is giving the data with ID 2. And if I change the alert button also, let's reload it. So on the button, oops, we need to use this JSON.stringify because it is in object format. We cannot alert it directly. Save this, reload the page. If I click on alert, so we are getting all 10 users data at initial level. If I click on Windows and then if I click on alert, so we are only getting the first user data. Now if I click on iOS, again alert. So this is how you can create a state of a variable of a component and later by using useEffect you can reset your data state or component state as per your requirement. So this is how we can use state and use effect. Basically, this is a very simple example because I want you to understand it how we can use these particular hooks like use effect and use state. But maybe in your application you will get a chance to work on a more complex use effect and use state example based on your project or your application. But this is how something you can relate, you can understand how this hooks works exactly. So this is about today's video. I hope you like it. If you did so, hit the like button, share, comment, and if you want to talk to me one-to-one, then you can follow me on Instagram. My Instagram handle is openprogrammer. So I'll see you in the next video. Thanks for watching. Take care. Bye bye.